Surprise, bitches.
We're back. Bet you thought you'd seen The Last of Us or heard, because you don't really see our faces, but you hear us talk.
I bet you wish you'd seen The Last of Us. It's been a while.
It's been 4 months, actually, and we kind of want to apologize for all three of you who listened to us.
Yeah.
We're not gonna lie, we're just kind of fucking lazy, and we're college students, so what can you expect from us? We have finals and stuff, but we're really actually super excited to be back doing this, because season 21 was fun. Like, we've been talking about it even before we started recording, so hopefully all of our good brain juices haven't been wasted.
Alright. Girl, do you want to get started? Do you have the Wikipedia page pulled up?
Started. Alright, let's get started with white people renovating houses.
Oh shit, sorry. We're really stale.
It's been too long, we forgot
We forgot how to make this podcast. Okay, let's try that again.
Let's start with white people renovating houses.
Aired September 13th, 2017.
Randy and Sharon start a home renovation show that is threatened. Cartman's relationship with Heidi becomes strained, and he grows attached to his Amazon Alexa. These are just really shitty synopses from Wikipedia, so bear with us. We're going to talk about the episode regardless.
All right.
So I feel like Rachel and I were kind of loners on our opinions of this episode when it first aired, because everybody on Tumblr was just raving about it, just going on how much they loved it. And honestly, we were just kind of meh. We weren't that impressed with it.
Well, no, I fucking hated it the first time I watched it. I really didn't like it. But this time, after we rewatched it, I'm like, okay, it's not that bad, but I still didn't like it.
Yeah, to me, the way I would describe this episode was just like disappointment, you know? Yeah. Because this, if you didn't know, it was right at the peak of the Confederate flag, like, waving, alt-right marches and everything. And, we were expecting them to really dig into this thing, and they kind of didn't. That's where this episode kind of fails for me. I don't hate this episode at all. Like, far from it, really. It has its really good moments, but I felt like it needed to go farther. It really did, because it just kind of lacked in its usually, like, poignant social commentary that South Park offers. It kind of lacked, and I feel like this is a subject that really needs to be talked about,
Yeah, I agree. I think the closest they actually came to really kind of ripping apart the Nazis is the line that Randy has where he says, "Don't you know that every time you wave the Confederate flag around, you make the rest of us look stupid?" I really like that line because it's true. But also, it really is them kind of ripping into people who do that, which is really the most they ever do this episode. Like you said, my disappointment was... Oh, shit, sorry. My disappointment was because of the fact that they had all this ammunition to really dig into Nazis, and they totally, like, let them off easy, which I thought was bullshit. Like, if anyone deserves to get ripped into on South Park, it's fucking Nazis and alt-right assholes. So, like, yeah.
Nazis marching, piling with torches. Like,
so why the fuck was this episode so tame when they tackled the Nazis? It was bullshit.
Yeah, like, you've gone harder on fucking Yelp reviewers.
Yeah.
And that's like disappointment. And of course, we see like the Daryl and Cletus like redneck stereotypes. But the problem is a lot of the Charlottesville marchers were they weren't, your stereotypical redneck people. They just looked like average family people. Yeah. And they were just, and so that's kind of where the danger lies, in just making them stereotypes, because then they're just so fictionalized and therefore non-threatening, even though they are a threat. They're a very real threat. They still are. And we know that they have total capability to really dig into these people and really make a statement. And I was just kind of disappointed. I felt like they needed to push it farther, Yeah. But actually, it's really funny at the end. My biggest disappointment at the end, when Randy renovates Daryl's house and everything, and he's panned out, Randy's outside, and all of the rednecks and alt-right people are in the house and everything, I totally thought, like, the house is going to collapse with, like, the people inside of them, and that was going to be their big message. See, I should have written this episode.
Yeah.
It would have been better.
You're welcome.
Like, I was waiting for that to happen, and I'm like, oh, okay, they're not getting off that easy. And then it just kind of...
It's like, oh, they did get off that easy.
It was just too tame. And this isn't really a subject that warrants being tame, you know?
Mm-hmm.
But that's not to say, like, the whole episode was bad. I didn't hate the episode. Even rewatching it, you know, now that it's not as touchy, I guess. It's still touchy. What am I saying? I've had time to, like, back away from it for a while. But even rewatching it, it had some really funny moments, you know. It wasn't doomed altogether. It just needed to be more than what it was.
I agree. I mean, there were some other parts of the episode that I really liked. Like, I loved Randy's fucking, like, white people renovating houses commercials because of the fact that, like, when Sharon was doing the commercial, she sounded like she was, like, being held hostage. Like, she was so unenthusiastic to be there. And it was so funny to me.
Oh, I will say, like, one thing that I initially really enjoyed, another thing that kind of called out the actual threat and danger and the idiocy of the Charlottesville, like, rioters, was when Randy kind of confronts Daryl and says, like, oh, what kind of job did you think you were going to get?
Mm-hmm.
You know, I feel like that was kind of its strongest point of saying something, but even then, I don't really think that's much of the issue present.
Right.
But I'll go off on why. I'll stop, you know, talking about why I didn't like this episode as much. But later in the season, as we'll talk about, Matt and Trey don't hold back. Mm-hmm. So it's good to know. And even then, even though I'd kind of say this episode was disappointing, I can still watch and enjoy certain parts of it.
Yeah. Like, one last thing about the episode is that this episode kind of starts the whole story arc that carries throughout the rest of the season with Cartman and his girlfriend Heidi and this really toxic relationship that they have. And I like the way it started here because Cartman's kind of using Alexa to replace his girlfriend because what he wants in a girlfriend is, like, what Alexa is, like, a woman who will do whatever he wants and, like, is basically just compliant to him in every single way. And that's the reason that his relationship with Heidi does not work. It's not Heidi's fault at all. It's just that Cartman's a piece of shit and wants just his girlfriend to do whatever he says.
Exactly. And, you know, it's funny the way they portray the relationship. And at first, like, you know, when it came out, especially when this episode came out, I feel like a lot of us were kind of tired of the whole Cartman and Heidi thing because it had started going downhill. It started becoming really toxic and problematic in season 20. So a lot of the viewers were kind of just tired of seeing it.
Right.
But as it progressed, like, now that I look back on the entire season, the whole arc, like, fluctuates and concludes so well this season. Like, that's actually the very first time I feel like a season-long storyline or plot line has been, like, really successful. Like, it starts and ends really well. Because if anybody's seen season 18 through 20, you'll know that that's not really their forte. So, mm-hmm. Looking back, even though I wasn't a huge fan of their relationship, like, early on, yeah. The arc itself was really solid. But anyway, I think we'll get more into that the further we go along. Are you ready to move on?
I am.
Let's move on to the best episode of the season, and probably one of the best in a long time, in my opinion. Put It Down.
Aired September 20th, 2017.
Tweak and Craig's relationship is strained. Cartman begs Heidi to take him back, but claims suicidal thoughts. Fuck, I'm really bad at this again, Rachel.
Oh my god. Okay.
Everyone else is busy mourning people killed by distracted drivers.
Okay.
God, these are really shitty synopses. I'm sorry.
It's okay. I just want to say that I think one of my favorite parts of the whole episode is the scene where the boys are, like, listening to Cartman's, like, suicide voicemail in the bathroom, and they're laughing at him, and then the camera pans out, and you see that Cartman's in the room while they're laughing at him.
Oh, man. Where do I even start with this episode. Okay, I know what people are gonna say. People only like it because it's fan service. It's Tweet and Craig shipping. I like it for that reason. Don't get me wrong, but that is far from the only reason why I love this episode. It's so well written. All the jokes land. It like concludes perfectly, and it has a sweet message at the end. Like you can't ask for anything more.
Alright, obviously I love Tweak and Craig as much as the next person, but I even think Cartman was really funny in this episode with this whole suicide thing.
Yes. Everything was just, all the jokes landed with Tweak and Craig. Like, granted, like you could call it fan service. It was very, they were calling each other baby and honey, which is, just kind of adorable. But also it just, whereas Cartman and Heidi portray like an actual and real by the book, textbook, abusive and manipulative relationship, Tweak and Craig show a very positive, healthy relationship with, an expected, strain. No relationship's perfect, but they worked through it, like, by understanding and supporting each other.
Right.
And, critiquing themselves on how to be better. So it's just, I felt like this was couples therapy for Matt and Trey. This is just the season of couples therapy.
Yeah, some of the jokes I liked in this episode were kind of smaller ones. Like, I liked Garrison tweeting throughout the episode, and I liked that his Twitter handle was For Real President. I thought that was funny. And then I also like the scene where Tweak just, like, calmly walks into Craig's room in the middle of the night and then just screams in his ear and wakes him up.
Just screams. Oh my gosh, the first joke in the episode had me rolling, where it was Tweak just walks up and starts screaming like, "Don't you do something!" Like he's playing the piano and just screaming. Like, I thought that was so funny. It landed. And I'm probably just really dumb and not good at catching on to things, but I totally did not expect, like, put it down when you're president, the whole, that was just so clever. Like, we got a musical number, too, so this really is just the perfect episode.
Yeah, but the best part about Tweak's song at the beginning is that the girl who, like, is supposed to go on after him, she's like crying. She's, like, crying, and she's like, ah. It's really funny.
It's just, it had so many good jokes, like, Eric, we love you, Eric, please don't die.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And I love that line that he has where he's like, I don't care if you're black, white, gay, straight, or trans. I'm going to kill myself.
Relatable content right there. But it just, I really can't praise this episode enough. I don't really have any qualms with it. I feel like the only reason why you'd really, really hate this episode is if you're a Trump supporter or you just really hate Tweak and Craig. Like, that's kind of it.
Yeah. But I mean, all the jokes are funny, but I really do think the best part about this episode is the message. Because of the fact that they're saying that, like, people in relationships, a lot of the time, it doesn't work because they try to fix their partner's problems and make it go away instead of just listening to what the problems are, which is what they really want.
Yeah, and communicating, like, people's feelings. And it's really kind of a subject that you wouldn't expect South Park to tackle.
Yeah.
But I'm glad they do, because they do such a good job with it. It's so well done. A lot of relationship talk in this season. Like, season 21 is just, like I said, couples therapy. Because it just continues,
Yeah, basically.
But perfect episode. So good. I mean, it's fine if somebody doesn't like the episode, but I absolutely love it. I don't have a problem with it at all. I can't really critique much. So, with that being said, are you ready to move on?
I am.
Okay, we're going to move on to Holiday Special.
Aired September 27th, 2017.
A relationship is formed when Randy kisses a Native American man. That's I can just make up my own.
That's all it says. Okay, but before we start, I do want to say that out of all of the episode titles we have this season, this one has got to be the laziest one. Just Holiday Special.
I thought you were going to say it's the funniest one, because honestly, it kind of is for me.
Really? I'm just imagining, like, Matt and Trey being like, hey, what do you want to call our holiday special? I don't know, a holiday special? Like, really?
Well, no, that's the irony in it, you know? It's a holiday special because it's Columbus Day. Like, oh, it's a holiday. It's just being facetious. Anyway, but, so we're going to get into this episode. My favorite part, without a doubt, is the DNA and Me commercial. That was just so damn funny because, I shit you not, I think it was right at the time that the preview aired, and the preview was just the commercial, you know. Mm-hmm. I'm a 12% victim, you know. Yeah. I thought I was just your average white guy, but turns out I'm 2% Cherokee Indian, you know. I'm a victim of oppression. Yeah. And I shit you not, in one of my college courses, the next day, my professor asked, like, for discussion, like, why do you think people are so infatuated recently with having their DNA tested and everything? And I honestly just wanted to pull up the video because it summed it up perfectly. Right. But I didn't. I kind of wish I did, but I didn't.
Alright, I like the Randy storyline just from the very beginning. Like, I love the part where Stan goes, what kind of asshole would take away a holiday? And then it immediately cuts to Randy. And you're like, Stan should know better at this point. But, I also like the whole thing about Columbus Day, about how it kind of shows, like, the other side of people who, like, don't want it taken away, but not for any malicious reason. It's not like they support Columbus. It's just they just want their day off. They don't care what it means.
They just want a day off.
Yeah. You know? But I thought that was a really valid point. Like, that's pretty true. Kids think that I probably would still want a day off for no reason, not caring what the reason is for.
Exactly. Like, it's funny because they're just, it doesn't really get malicious at this point in this episode. It doesn't get malicious. It doesn't get, like, mean and biting for people. You know, it makes fun of Randy, who, you know, obviously he's there just to be an idiot. Yeah. And, you know, he's kind of into it's his shield, you know, trying to back up his previous behavior, and him being stoked on Columbus, which is the weirdest thing
I know.
that I've had. That's so... He was like, it was 2013, everybody was stoked on Columbus. I'm like, when was this a thing?
I know.
When did this happen? Why all of a sudden? Like, I guess it works with the storyline, I guess, but I thought they were trying to point to something that actually happened.
Yeah, I don't remember that either. I thought the joke was that Randy just, like, was really, really stoked on it and thought that everyone else was too, but they kind of weren't. Like, I don't know.
No, that was the joke, for sure, but it was just funny. I'm like, why so specific?
I know.
What was he stoked about with Columbus? Like,
although, okay, definitely the sweetest part of the episode is when Randy, like, makes that Native American guy, like, fall in love with him.
Oh. That was almost a little bit sad for me. I'm like, he just wants to be happy.
Although the best part was when the guy comes to Randy's house and he's like, we need to do an anal swab. And he, like, comes running after the guy. He's like, wait.
He was so ready to be butt-fucked by this dude. He was so ready.
Oh, my God.
That's just what's funny. I mean, you know, it is a really heavy Randy episode and everything. And I know that's kind of been in recent complaints. Like, people either love the Randy episodes or they're just tired of them. But this one really worked. It really did. Like, I just thought it was funny all around. I think the weakest points, actually, were the parts with the boys. The B-plot with the boys. Even though I thought it was funny, you know, with them blackmailing and doing the fake voices with the animal masks and everything. It was funny. It didn't serve too much of a purpose to me. I felt like they could have just focused and done more with the first plot.
I guess so. Although I did love the part where, like, they were threatening the guy with their, like, creepy Bane voice, and they're, like, arguing over the phone. They're like, tell me to chop his dick off. No, dude, that's too harsh. And he can, like, hear everything in the other line.
Like, dude, that's a little bit harsh.
Yeah. Just give me the phone.
That was really funny. But again, this one's just a really good episode. I liked this one as well. But definitely the high point, without a doubt, was the DNA and Me commercial.
Yeah.
But, and then also, how could I forget the indigenous people word mix-up? Just, I can't believe people are being so indigenous against my people, you know? And, It's like, do you even know what indigenous means, you fucking moron? It's just like, nice one, Steve, your wife's a whore. Like, I thought the ending of this one was just really funny, really well done. It had good pacing. I think this episode had a good storyline and good pacing.
Mm-hmm.
Just one of them was stronger than the other.
Yeah.
Which is often the case.
That's fine. Yeah, that's fine.
But are you ready to move on?
I am. Let's go on to the worst episode of the season.
yeah. This one wasn't that great. Franchise Prequel.
Aired October 11th, 2017.
God, we're really rusty
Sorry,
right
I'm
now.
playing Candy Crush.
The Coon and Friends members struggle to start a superhero franchise while fake news gets spread through about them through Facebook. That one wasn't actually that bad at summarizing the episode. What they failed to include was the fact that the Mark Zuckerberg thing was just what the fuck and so dumb and just honestly cringy. So I've even watched, so if you haven't seen the episode, they have the whole Mark Zuckerberg guy, and his voice speech is off and everything. He's talking about style and all that. It references this weird Facebook Live thing that he did, and I watched the video that it's referencing, and the joke still isn't funny. I'm sorry. It just never hits for me. I never found it that funny.
I am the person that never saw the Mark Zuckerberg thing. I have no idea what it means. But definitely, that whole storyline with him is so fucking weird. I did not understand it at all. I knew that there was something they were making fun of, and I just wasn't getting it. But I don't know. It was so weird to me.
See, the episode is only a few months old. It's like 6 months old, and it's already dated.
Mm-hmm.
It's just dated. It's a dated episode. Because it references something, and we were talking about this before we started recording, but South Park is, known to do obscure references, like the fighting the Frizzies at whatever for one of the Christmas specials, and the Lion King 2 joke. Those obscure references work when it's not a crucial part of the story, They're just little add-in jokes that are just winks to fans who get the joke. When you make your obscure reference something that's a huge plot point in a recurring joke, it's honestly just, it's kind of tedious and weird at that point, and it's not funny anymore. That makes sense.
And also another reason I didn't like this episode, I don't know if it's because the last Coon trilogy we had was so strong, and I was kind of expecting another thing with that, but this episode was bad. I didn't like it, and I was like I said, I was expecting it to be as good as like Mysterion Rises, and it wasn't. But I think it's because this episode was just a commercial for the Fractured Butthole, and that's all it was.
That's really what it shouldn't have been. Franchise Prequel. It should have just been Fractured Butthole commercial.
Yeah,
that's it.
Yeah, and I was telling Shirley earlier, Matt and Trey even copied and pasted the thing at the end, from the trailer of their thing. Oh, from the trailer of the Fractured Butthole, that whole thing, they just, put it at the end. They're like, alright, this episode's over. Really?
See, it felt kind of lazy. And where, we had advertisement for The Stick of Truth in the Black Friday trilogy, but it wasn't a copy-paste commercial.
Right.
It had a storyline. It had its own story that was actually had relatively not much to do with the game itself and with what was in the episodes, actually, but in this one, it really just was a commercial advertising the Fractured Butthole, which, we were all excited about it. Good God, we waited 2 extra years for it to be fucking made, and it's a great game. But if you're gonna advertise it, at least make it a good episode.
I know, and one more complaint from me is that it's long been known that Matt and Trey don't realize how much people love Kenny. But I thought they would have at least known how much people love Mysterion and that he's the main reason why people tune into the superhero thing. So I can't believe that they had a whole superhero episode and did nothing with Mysterion. It was all just Carmen and Butters. Are you kidding me?
Yeah, there was honestly nothing. And that's another big thing that I've seen it, before. It's a main critique with, longtime fans and super hardcore fans that there's pretty much no Kenny at all anymore. And it used to, I used to not be so bothered by it. You know, he doesn't always have to be the focal point. But now it's just like he's just dead. It's like season 6 all over again, but it's lasted longer than when he actually died. Like,
I know.
He's been out of the loop and out of the spotlight for so long. It's like he's not even a character anymore, which is sad because he's one that's so loved. He's not like Pip that they killed off because he just wasn't being used and not a lot of people cared about him. Sorry to any Pip fans, all 2 of you out there.
Yeah.
But it just, you know, it kind of bothers me that he's just kind of thrown in the background now. Not even, you know, he doesn't appear at all. And it's not that he's been replaced or whatever. He's just not being used anymore. I don't think he's been really showcased since, like, the shitty part of town.
Yeah, that was, like, his last,
Like, that was his last, and that was
Big
3
hurrah.
seasons ago.
I know. Yeah, you're right. Like, Kenny doesn't even show up anymore. Like, saying he's in the background is kind of the wrong term. Stan is the one who's in the background. Like, he's kind of shoved in the back, and he kind of comes forward every once in a while. Like, in the next episode. Do you want to go on? Do you want to go on to the next one, the Stan episode?
Yeah, because we can just, like... We can just talk about how disappointing this was forever. So you know what? We'll actually talk about Stan where they actually... it works when you put your favorite characters in the spotlight. Because Hummels and Heroin is such a good episode.
Yep. And it aired October 18th, 2017.
Opiates cause a problem in South Park and Stan is believed to be responsible. God fucking damn it. These are so terrible.
Is this Wikipedia?
That's it. Like, that's the summary.
Wait, are you on Wikipedia, or, like, what website are you on?
Oh, I'm on Wikipedia.
Ugh, Wikipedia.
But I'm too lazy to find a better one. And too lazy to read longer ones.
So
you know what?
yeah.
Beggars can't be choosers.
The Wikipedia assholes have the nerve to ask me for money, and then they can't even do good South Park synopses. Okay, I like this episode a lot. The only one I like more is Put It Down, but this one is a very close second. I love a good Stan episode. You guys know that.
And it's not even because it's a Stan episode that it's such a strong episode. Mm-hmm. It's just funny. It is so good. It's really close to Put It Down. This season had just 2 fantastic episodes, and Put It Down and Hummels and Heroin to me are just prime examples of really good South Park episodes. Mm-hmm. They weren't. This one. Unlike Put It Down, which had a little bit more, like, direct social commentary, you know, political commentary, this one does have, like, a sort of social commentary. They're talking about Big Farm, you know, pharmaceuticals and everything, that kind of... They don't hint on it heavily, but, you know, it's addressed. And also, you know, nursing homes, which are just more social issues rather than political, which is kind of nice and refreshing. It's not all, you know, heavy political and too in the now, you know? Mm-hmm. They're not... This episode didn't feel like they were trying so hard to do something that was in the news, you know? Yeah. It just felt like a natural, old school South Park episode. And it shows because it's really good.
Mm-hmm. I love how they compare nursing homes to prisons. I love the rap song they had when they would go throughout the nursing home, and then the solitaire room is like the substitute for solitary in prison. that whole joke worked so well just because it's so true. Like, I used to work in an old folks home, and it is, like, it's a very real thing. Like, they just, like, kind of dump these people there to, like, die and just forget about them. It's really sad.
Oh, wait. Am I still doing fun facts? I guess
yeah, you can.
Occasionally. I used to do them almost every episode.
I know.
For every episode. And then now I'm slow on my game now. Well, fun fact, if you didn't know, actor Josh Gad, who played Elder Cunningham in Book of Mormon, voice of Olaf and Frozen and all that, you've pretty much seen him everywhere now. He was a writer and lent his voice in this episode. And if he's one of the reasons why this episode was so good, I really want him back.
Yeah, they should hire him.
Because he voices Marcus, and he voices Mrs. McGillicuddy.
Really?
Yes, I didn't realize it, but then like I had to listen closer. I'm like, oh my god, that's also Josh
That's
Gad.
funny. I
So
liked I liked Marcus in this episode just because I thought that the whole joke where he can't tell the difference between Chuck E. Cheese and like a guy who's dressed like Chuck E. Cheese, I thought that was funny. That was really funny.
this honestly, that whole joke was just really funny. Like it really showed how all the writers in the room have kids
Mm-hmm.
because they know like the specifics, like Shimmer and Shine and Peppa Pig
Yeah.
and Chuck E. Cheese. Like that's such a parent thing, you know, because
Mm-hmm.
I nanny kids, so I know these names.
Yeah.
You know, I know these characters, but I bet like young average watchers are just like, who the fuck are these characters?
Yeah, like I kind of knew some of them, but not a lot.
But this, I don't know, this one just works so well. I think it in the writing aspect, like it works. You know, all the jokes land for me, and it really was kind of an unexpected episode. You know, it didn't really have any ties with the main like story plot. It didn't have really anything to do with Heidi and Cartman or Mr. Garrison. It just kind of existed in its own thing. It was its own little thing, and I think those episodes tend to be the best in serialized seasons.
Yeah, totally. And then I also love the part where the boys like go in their barbershop quartet outfits looking so adorable, trying to like distract the old people. And then they sing like songs like from the 90s and early 2000s like it's old people music.
I know, I love it. It's like, here's some oldies but goodies, and immediately start singing My Milkshakes Bring All the Boys to the Yard. Like that, those jokes just landed. They were so funny.
I also like the part where like the old people start leaving. They're like, "You kids are terrible," and then Carmen's like, "Fuck you, we're adorable children coming to entertain you."
I also just fucking love the one line. Like, I don't even think it's meant to be a joke, but the way it's just said so calmly, it's right towards the end where Stan just tells his grandpa, "Congrats on becoming this main bitch, Grandpa."
Yeah,
like,
head bitch.
head bitch, Grandpa. Like that line is so funny to me. It's just like it's just a good episode. It's not. It kind of it works on its own. It could have appeared in any season and been relevant.
Yeah.
So nice job, Matt and Trey. Like I can't, and Josh Gad for being on the show. Like I want more of him now because his character was really funny.
I agree. I loved Hummels and Heroin, but I also really liked the next episode too. So do you want to go on?
Yes, we will move on to Sons of Witches.
Aired October 25th, 2017.
When a witch causes problems for South Park's Halloween, Cartman looks for a way to take an advantage.
Ugh.
Okay. So you go ahead and talk about this episode because I know you like it so much.
Okay. Well, first of all, I love the Halloween opening. I always love it when they change the theme song for like.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah. This episode was really good. I liked it. I know a lot of people online that I saw didn't like this one, but I was surprised because I liked it a lot. I specifically liked the joke where like they're all dressed up like witches, but they can't think of the phrase witch hunt.
I know, that was so funny. Actually, speaking of that, one thing that I really love about this episode is that, you know, it definitely has like a clear social commentary. It talks about, okay, you know, just because you're a bad witch, you know, we're not all bad, and then they're trying to cover up this fact and like are just overzealous about assuring that they're not these bad people. It's like, well, you're also a witch. You need to kind of take responsibility.
Right.
And this can apply to so many different things. You know, it's not crazy specific. You know, it's an important moral and an important message, but, you know, it's not super crazy specific, you know?
Yeah, I remember when this episode first came out, and I liked it a lot, but I didn't really think too much into it. And then, like, the next day, the review for this episode was something like, South Park, blah, blah, talks about Harvey Weinstein or whatever. And I was like, oh, okay. Like, looking back and rewatching this episode, it kind of makes sense, because I think that's when that whole thing was starting to become really popular when this episode aired. And it totally makes sense, but, like, watching it on my own, I did not make that connection at all. Maybe I'm just dumb, but...
No. Like, that's when I was watching it, that's what I figured. It was about, I just assumed, because, you know, it was at the high peak Harvey
Right.
Weinstein, and it certainly fits, you know, it's not like
Yeah.
it doesn't correlate with that, but there are so many other things that it can be used for, and that's what I like about these episodes, is that when they're not crazy specific and hyper-focused on one issue, they have much more watchability, you know?
Yeah.
And rewatchability, really.
Okay, and there's one part of this episode that I want to talk about that I liked, but also sort of didn't like for a different reason. But I liked the whole storyline where Heidi takes too long to get ready because like just because of the scene at the end where she like takes too long to get out of the witch's bag, like that part was so funny. It like made the whole joke worth it. But I didn't like how people online reacted to it. Because I would see people in the comments who were like, "Oh yeah, any guy who has had to wait for their girlfriend like knows what this is like. I love this joke," and I'm like, "You fucking idiots! Do you realize that you're not supposed to be on Cartman's side in this episode? Like he tried to murder his girlfriend. Like how do you not realize?"
See, you know, that's funny because there are actually a few instances, and I can't blame Matt and Trey for this, but there are a few instances where there are scenes with Cartman and Heidi, and they're blatantly obvious that you're not supposed to side with them.
Yeah.
But the feedback of certain fans don't get that.
I know.
You know? They're constantly, you know, Cartman has perpetually shown and is portrayed to be a character that you can laugh at and you can enjoy. You know, I enjoy watching his character. I think he's a well-written one, but he's not a role model. He's not somebody that you're supposed to look up to and side with.
Or even relate to at all. Like
you're really, if you relate to Cartman, there might be something wrong, you know?
Yeah, I know.
There might be something a little bit off. And that's, you know, that's kind of a nitpicky thing. I feel like most fans of the show know this, you know, they know, giving credit where credit is due. Not all fans are like that, you know?
Yeah.
But it was a little frustrating to see some people react that way.
Yeah. And
not seeing the big picture and the real reason for why Cartman and Heidi were portrayed the way they were. So,
yeah. All right,
that's just a nitpick thing.
Yeah. But this is also the first time that Garrison shows up this season, I believe. And I was telling Shirley earlier that I was actually kind of happy to see Mr. Garrison because it's been a while, and then we got to hear him say "oh geez" one more time, and it was kind of like a callback, and it was kind of refreshing to see a new face again. But then he kind of showed up more often in the next episode. I was like, oh, no, take him away again. But he was really good this episode because he was used in such small doses and like only when he was necessary, and that's when it really worked. Now do that for Randy. Oh, the best line of the episode was "butter 'em up, Butters."
I totally forgot about that line, but yes. No, I really like. I just like the joke about the Ross dress for less. Like, I know that's so weird, but it's like the scariest place in town. That's right, the Ross dress for less. Like, that was just so weird, but it was just funny. I like their weird, surreal jokes.
Yeah.
But that's kind of all I have to say. I don't really have many critiques. Like, for me, it wasn't the funniest episode, but it was strong enough. You know, I like it.
Yeah. All right, want to go on?
But we'll move on. Speaking of, you know, progression and everything and their relationship, this one focuses a lot on that, and that is Doubling Down.
Aired November 8th, 2017.
Kyle is fed up with Cartman's abuse towards Heidi and gets involved. President Garrison's advisors worry about some of his recent actions. So, if you were ever confused prior to this episode about Matt and Trey's stance on Trump, you just need to watch this episode, and, I mean, if you haven't gotten the major signals before, this will answer and finally solidify your questions, because they just really don't hold back this season.
Yeah, I actually don't even have that much to say about Garrison's storyline, other than the fact that it's supposed to be a clear parallel to Cartman and showing how they're both abusing people. I kind of wanted to talk more about Eric and Heidi a little bit more. Especially, like one of the first lines in the episode is when, like, Cartman and Heidi are, like, arguing on the phone, and he, like, wants her to take him back or whatever. And she's like, you called me a whore and pushed me in front of a car. And he's like crying. He's like, I was just in a bad mood. Like, that line made me laugh a lot, but it also, like, is really important because, like, it shows just how abusive and horrible he is to her. And it breaks my heart that some people are still like, Heidi's the worst. Why would he dump her? Like, I would have fucking killed myself when I hear people say that.
I know. See, and what's a good thing, and also kind of a double-edged sword, is that, you know, they do such a good job at portraying an abusive and manipulative relationship. Like, this is very accurate to what it's like, you know, threatening to kill oneself. Like, that's a heavily used tactic for somebody who's emotionally, verbally, physically abusive in a domestic situation.
Yeah, I really loved Kyle this episode because I felt like he's always the voice of reason, but he was really like the voice for the audience this episode. I love when he was talking to Heidi and he's like, Cartman clearly sucks, right? Like, what about him is even remotely redeemable? and I especially loved him because I've kind of, like, been in his situation before. I know what it's like to watch someone, like, who you love and who is so great, like, choose to be in a relationship with someone who sucks so bad, and you're like, I don't get it. Why would you leave them? Like, it's the worst. Like, I totally empathize with Kyle here.
See, and what I also like about that is Kyle comes to the realization, you know, like, he points out a big flaw when people talk about these kind of relationships, because people are so quick to be like, what is wrong with the victim? You know, why does this person stay with them? Why does they're so dumb? You know, it's the scene where Heidi's talking to her friends and they're all just kind of ganging up on her saying, like, what were you thinking? You know, making jokes. And Kyle accurately points out that, like, she stays with them, one, out of, you know, familiarity and everything. It's what she knows, but also she feels like she has to defend it. She doesn't want to feel like she's made the wrong decision, you know? And when you, like, hammer down on the victim, it just doesn't do any good, you know? You're just being an asshole.
Yeah, especially because of the fact that, like, if Heidi finally leaves Cartman, who's this abusive partner, it's like, well, what is she going to do now? Is she going to go back to her friends who are being assholes and saying, we told you so? Like, that doesn't seem like a good option to her either. So she's really not got a lot of things she can do at this point.
Exactly. So I'm really happy they pointed that out. It's funny and sad, the ending of this episode, where Cartman it basically just manipulates Heidi again, and but the line is just too funny, where Kyle just is sitting there flabbergasted as Heidi goes back to Cartman, and he goes, Did she just call me a sneaky Jew?
Yeah.
Look what you've done. You've turned her into a sociopath.
I know. I want to talk about some more jokes that I really liked. I was telling Shirley that I love the part where Cartman, like, is convincing Heidi that KFC is, like, vegan KFC. And he just wrote, like, the word Beyond on a KFC bucket in magic marker, and she totally believed it. I thought that was funny. You also really liked the whole Kyle montage, right?
Oh, I love the Kyle montage. And going back to obscure jokes and references, talk about obscure with, where Cartman is thinking about, Kyle in his head, and all these surreal images pop up. It references Dumbo's Elephants on Pink Parade, Little Mermaid, and fucking Cats Don't Dance. Like, not a lot of people know a whole lot about Cats Don't Dance, so I saw that, I'm like, oh my god. They really are parents.
This is an example of, like, an obscure joke, like, working really well. Because, like, I did not get those references at all, but I still found that montage to be really, really funny on its own. Like, you don't need to get the joke, honestly, kind of.
Yeah.
Oh, also, I love the part where Cartman, like, challenges Kyle to a fight, and then Kyle just knocks him out in one punch. I always love seeing Kyle do that.
Yes! That's the best part. I was just about to say. I love it. He's just like, fuck you, Kyle, like, as he's going down. It's just so funny. I love it whenever they, like, get into a fight and it just takes, like, one little hit or slap for Kyle to, like, overtake Cartman or whatever.
Oh, and another underrated joke is the part at the end right before Heidi comes and breaks Kyle's heart, but it's the part where Kyle, like, goes through all this effort to do his hair really nice, and he puts his fucking hat back on and completely covers it up.
his hair looked so nice.
I know, you're so cute.
But, you know what wasn't as nice?
What?
Lost Piglets.
Yeah, let's go on.
Next episode.
It aired.
Lost Piglets.
This episode aired November 15th, 2017.
Timmy and Jimmy's science project catches the attention of some very important people. Heidi begins to resemble Cartman, earning the disapproval of her peers and Cartman. So I don't hate this episode. This is probably my second to least favorite, right behind franchise prequel. But I don't hate this episode. It's just kind of a lull for me. It's not as strong as its predecessors and the ones that follow it and everything.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think I made it pretty clear that I'm not a huge fan of the Nathan and Mimsy episodes. I just think that we've seen it all before. They basically have the same structure, the same jokes, and then those two characters are not strong enough to carry the whole episode. It's kind of a bummer whenever I hear we're going to get one of their episodes, but this episode for me really was it was more about showing Heidi and Carmen's relationship as an aftermath of doubling down and how she's like him now. I love the line with Mr. Mackey and PC Principal where he's like, she's kind of like Cartman but with the ability to follow through. And he's like, oh dude, bro.
Oh, you know what? Speaking of PC Principal, and we'll talk more about this like with the next episode, but I've actually grown to like him. I wasn't a huge fan of him in season 19. I didn't hate him or anything. I just thought, he was just kind of overused. Mm-hmm. His joke had like overstayed its welcome and whatever. But now I really like it. Like he's just funny. I've enjoyed having him as the principal of the school now.
I think
I've really warmed up to him this season.
I think it's because of the same reason why I liked Garrison or seeing him again, because he's being used in moderation. He's not the main center of the season. He's not around all the time. So that when you do get to see him again, it's like it's very good, and they just use him specifically. It like makes you miss him. It makes you kind of realize that he's a funny character. But if they shoved him in my face again, I'd be like, okay, get rid of this guy again.
Yeah, it's kind of like, it's like with Randy again and everything, because Randy is really funny in moderation, and they actually eased up a good bit on him. That's why he was so kind of refreshing in Holiday Special. Yeah. He was really funny in that episode. They've eased up a little bit on Randy. They could ease up a little more, but he got really tiresome for a while. But I enjoy him. I enjoy him when he's used like Garrison and like PC Principal in moderation. Mm-hmm. He's not like Cartman, where Cartman is so versatile in what he can do. Mm-hmm. Cartman can do just about anything. They can make him do anything in his own little Cartman way and do so many different storylines with him. PC Principal and Randy are they're not like flat characters. They're fairly dimensional, but they have their own gimmicks. Yes. Randy's just the dumb alcoholic dad. PC Principal's the overhyped frat boy who's just crazy social justice, Right. And that's why they need to be used in moderation, because gimmicks just get old after a while.
Yeah. I don't really have a lot of funny jokes from this episode, because I didn't think this episode was that funny, but one of the things I wanted to point out was that I liked seeing Heidi at her bus stop and seeing how she's really becoming like Cartman. And the part where Cartman comes up to her and he's like, "Hey Heidi," and she's like, "Ugh," she's all annoyed, how Cartman used to be with her. I really like that detail because it's showing that by turning into Cartman, she's also becoming an abusive partner just like he was to her.
Exactly. That's what I really liked about their arc, because at the beginning it was just it seemed like it was just going to be very one note, where it's just Heidi's happy and giddy and Cartman's miserable. It was just going to be that joke. But no, it showed the progression of an actual abusive, manipulative, toxic relationship, mm-hmm. and finished it. And we'll talk more about it, when we get to the final episode. But they actually showed a progression where it's not just this recurring joke like it was in season 20. Women are funny, get over it.
Yeah.
It's actually progressing in a way that's satisfying but also accurate. It's an accurate depiction. She's becoming a little bit more toxic.
Yeah.
By association, by hanging out with them.
Yeah.
One thing that I didn't like about this episode really was that it made me hear "Look What You Made Me Do" by Taylor Swift.
Oh yeah.
Sorry for any Swifters out there. Like, I don't hate the girl, whatever. I don't really like her in particular, but at least some of her other songs are at least catchy. It's so bad. I could go off. It was played for like 2 seconds in this episode, but it made me so mad.
I
I'm
know.
like, oh, that song fucking sucks. It's so bad. Anyway, I think we can go away from bad episodes. We've kind of talked about. Oh wait, one more thing I wanted to say about this was, the high point of this episode for me was the progression of Heidi being like Cartman and everything.
Mm-hmm.
That was the high point. Everything else kind of fell flat. I thought the NFL jokes were just kind of dull.
Dumb.
The water bear stuff
Bad.
was weird. Jacob and Mimsy Nathan. I don't know who the fuck Jacob.
Yeah. What?
Nathan and Mimsy have kind of overstayed their welcome a little bit for me. They're just not as funny. So the jokes didn't land this episode as much, but Heidi's progression and the complexity of their relationship is what, is redeeming about it.
Yeah. All right, do you want to go on?
Yeah, now we can move on to Super Hard PCness.
Aired November 29th, 2017.
PC principal falls in love with the new vice principal. Kyle realizes how wrong Terrence and Philip are. So shitty.
Okay, I love the part at the beginning where Kyle's like, or someone is like, what's going on? And they're like, Cartman and his girlfriend are fighting again. And then you show them getting it, they're like in an actual fist fight in the middle of the hallway.
Where this episode, actually, the jokes land. I really enjoy this episode.
I also
actually,
liked
the last two.
I also liked,
so
like,
odd.
During the fight, it's funny because you can see, like, the girls are, like, rooting on Cartman and the guys are rooting on Heidi. That was so funny to me.
Can't trust your friends.
I know.
Like, they'll turn on you. But, no, the jokes really land in this one. And that's so weird for me because usually where the season falls apart with these past few seasons has been, like, episodes 8, 9, and 10, And 9 and 10 are genuinely really good episodes, in my opinion. I really liked them. I loved the Hootie and the Blowfish joke. I thought that was so damn funny. Is anybody else hearing Hootie and the Blowfish right now?
Yeah.
And he goes to the doctor.
It was so funny.
It was just so funny. And then my other favorite joke, I loved seeing old Terrence and Philip. Like, I know that's like a big step, and it's kind of heartbreaking to see them old because, that's a big step. That's a big, daring motion because, I mean, they could, but it'd be pretty flawed if they had him, like, regress back to their normal age. Mm-hmm. But it was just so damn funny with, like, Terrence, I think I just shit myself. They're all man farts.
Okay, I do agree that, like, they were funny, but I'm also gonna be that asshole that's like, well, but why are Terrence and Philip this old? Like, I get that they're supposed to be metaphors for, like, Matt and Trey feeling like they're old men, but, like, within the context of the show, it does not make any sense for them to be this old. Like, come on, man.
It kind of doesn't, but it's still so fucking funny. It's still so fucking fun. I mean, it is to kind of show maybe they're just, like, out of touch. Netflix is out of touch.
Yeah. Because
there are a lot. I went back and, like, looked at just the Netflix originals, and even though Netflix has, like, some amazing, awesome shows, some of the best that, Hollywood has to offer, like, there are some pretty garbage fire shows, like, that stem from Netflix.
Yeah.
I feel like this could be a polarizing episode for some people, especially for new fans, because it was just a big love letter to Bigger, Longer, and Uncut, with basically becoming his mother, even the moms against Canada versus millennials against Canada. It was just a really nice throwback. I felt like this one was really for the hardcore fans and the long-term fans. I
especially liked the scene with Kyle on the news with, like, the Canadian dude, because it was such a direct parody of the South Park movie. Because I really like that it's showing how much Kyle is lacking self-awareness right now and how he's unable to learn from the past. It kind of really shows more about Kyle's storyline in this episode. Because he gets pissed off that people are calling him a Jewish mother, but, like, he and his mom are really similar in this moment because they both want to blame something stupid for their problems instead of, like, facing it themselves.
Mm-hmm. And, it's so funny that South Park has been on so long that they have to parody themselves.
Yeah. Oh, speaking of parodying themselves, um, people on the internet noticed that Kyle's haircut and his like new undershirt made him look like a lot like Matt Stone, the creator. So I like that a lot. That was a nice touch.
It really was, because if you look at a recent picture of Matt Stone and then look at like little polished Kyle
Yeah.
when he cuts his hair, it's pretty much Matt, like modern day Matt.
Mm-hmm.
And another thing, I feel like this might have been like a Matt episode or something. And at no point do I feel like it's making an excuse for inappropriate like sexual advances in a relationship in like the workplace. But I like how they kind of hint on people being like romantically involved mutually,
Yeah.
even though they're coworkers. And that's a lot of people might not know this, but Matt Stone's wife, Angela Howard, they met through Comedy Central. Like they were pretty much coworkers. She was she was an executive for Comedy Central when they met, and now they're married with 2 kids. So it's kind of funny. I wonder if Matt had a lot to do with
Probably.
the writing here.
I
Because,
also
with PC Principal and Strong Woman, how fucking funny is Strong Woman? She was so great.
I love the introduction of Strong Woman and Misconduct in this episode, but it also kind of made me laugh. I'm like, what's with the show needing like a female version of every character? Like, what the fuck?
Oh, I know. But I really like this episode. I like how it kind of, I mean, I totally might be stretching with that, but that's what I immediately thought of when it talks about relationships in the workplace. I'm like, that's kind of funny because, that's how Matt met his wife
Yeah.
in the workplace.
Yeah, one last thing is that one of my favorite lines is when Mr. Mackey's like, "Oh, we'll get someone from HR over here." He's Principal's like, "HR? Is that like hootie removal?" Like, no, you idiot.
I forgot about that part. Yes.
All right, want to go on?
Yeah, I think we're ready to move on to Splatty Tomato.
Aired December 6, 2017.
The president, Mr. Garrison, continues to cause problems for the children of South Park, aka It 2017.
Yeah, okay, I love this episode because I fucking love the movie It, and I love that they made a parody of it.
You love the book too.
Yeah,
That's your favorite book.
I love that book and movie.
God, we have fucking character analyses on our channel of the character. I have nothing to do with those. You just love them so much.
I do. I love that. Yeah, just look at my YouTube channel. I love South Park and It, and this episode was like my dream come true.
It really was, and not only that, it was just a genuinely funny and interesting episode. And I will say, like, it was kind of unexpected for me for them to go this far. I absolutely loved. I thought it was so funny and so clever. The Whites family.
Yeah.
Nobody asks the Whites anymore. And it's hilarious. And I'm not saying like, oh wow, that's so bold. I can't believe South Park wow, South Park doing something bold. What a fucking surprise. But I wouldn't have expected them for a long time now to take such a really bold and just actual definite stance. This could really alienate a lot of their viewers and everything. I don't fucking care because I thought the joke was funny and it's totally warranted. But everything about the Fox News trap, the Fox trap, it was Fox News. I was hoping that's what it was gonna be. I heard the Fox trap. I'm like, oh my god, it's gonna be Fox News, isn't it? And it was.
Fox News, they'll get my side.
And I love the Whites family was just such a perfect allegory. It was so perfect. It wasn't even subtle. It wasn't a subtle allegory.
Yeah.
But it was so perfect. It was just something that needed to be said.
Yeah.
Whereas Randy's just like, come on, man. You know. And then he goes well, Hillary wouldn't have been any better. Everybody's because that's their only fucking defense.
Right.
Anybody who's still on board. It's and the first thing that they'll jump to is, well, Hillary. And I'll probably get some comments about that below if anybody sees this video. But no, that it's really kind of refreshing to see them take such a stance
Yeah.
because, centrism is fine every once in a while. It's important to acknowledge your own mistakes, to like not, be too heavy on one side or the other, to call out your own corruptions and problems. But it was just really refreshing to see this,
Yeah.
just be like, no, we're not fucking around anymore. We're gonna say what needs to be said.
Yeah, I love the exchange with like, I don't know what his name is, but the dude's like, well, the whites still support the president, and then Randy's like, come on, he's shitting in the woods and scaring your kids. Like, really?
And not only like the political humor, but the jokes just kind of land. Like, I saw it too. Stranger Things, yeah, and it. I saw both of them. I saw them too. Like that, the whole bike, and then Randy for no reason tries to get on his bike and he just falls. And that made me laugh really hard too. It was just this dumb little joke,
I
but
also
it was
like
so funny.
Yeah, I also like the joke about the '80s music, where like they try to find the right soundtrack for their adventure, and and it was made funnier to me because people on the internet were joking like the reason that Stan and Craig's groups are always at odds is because they have different tastes in music. Like that's why.
It's so funny. Like, I just liked hearing the old ass '80s music and everything, like Pac-Man Fever and all that shit. Like, just everybody, wow, '80s was such a high point for music. I'm like, there are high points and low points for every,
Yeah.
fucking.
Okay, this is
For
kind
every
of a
funk, there's a look what you made me do.
yeah.
Okay, like.
This is kind of a less funny part, but one part I really wanted to point out is like when they're on this adventure and then Kyle and Heidi like have this fight and Heidi goes like, "What's the matter, Kyle? Are you mad because you had the hots for me and I rejected you?" And then Kyle like gets in her face. He goes, "I would never have the hots for the person you are now." And I really like the way he says it because it's very clear that he's not talking about the fact that she's like overweight. He's not making fun of her in that way at all. It's very
Yeah.
clearly because of the fact that he thinks she's a disgusting person now and her
She's
values are horrible. Like that's why it's very clear that's why he doesn't like her anymore, not because of her body type.
Yeah, it really is. And the thing about, like I said before, we were all kind of worried it was just going to be a kind of cat and mouse sort of thing where Cartman was just going to be an asshole, Heidi was going to be oblivious or sad or whatever. He was just going to be mean to her all the time. But we finally see like a really good conclusion. I mean, granted, it might have been like a little bit sped up. We don't really see much of her recovery. But then again, you could argue that this episode is a cliffhanger in of itself. But Heidi, and it's kind of a controversial thing for her to be like, no, I can't always be the victim. I can't keep labeling myself, which, it's not, this episode isn't saying like, oh, you should just get over your problems. It made like a really good point about like, okay, if I constantly like make myself the victim, I can excuse myself for doing all these shitty things.
Yeah.
Because Heidi did turn into another Cartman. She became this really bad person because she saw herself, and that's how Cartman continues to be a crappy person, is that he's never empathetic towards other people. He just sees himself as the center of attention.
Yeah.
And therefore nothing he can do is wrong, and I think that's kind of like a mindset that a lot of people struggle with. They think, like in abusive relationships, probably the abuser is likely the one who says, no, I'm the one being hurt.
Right.
And, like, it was just a really nice point, and they finished it really well,
Yeah, I think the message is made stronger by the fact that Kyle kind of comes to the same realization as Heidi does after the aftermath of him getting Canada blown up. They both realize they cannot be victims anymore, and that the only way for self-improvement is to admit that you had part of the blame, and that it's not always everyone else's fault. It was really good for me to see both of those characters kind of step away from that line of thinking in a way that we know Cartman never will. And it kind of makes you very hopeful that, like, Heidi um, may have stooped to Cartman's level, but she's still better than him. She can still become good. And then Kyle is maybe down now, but the reason he's not like Cartman is because of how good he is and how he is intelligent enough and self-aware enough to be like this. And he finally has gotten back to this point.
Yeah, and what I also love, Heidi, is they aren't saying like, oh, you were never a victim to begin with.
Right.
Like, they know that she's been corrupted. She goes, you did this to me, And it's partially true. Like, she was a victim. You know, they made it clear that she was treated really badly and she went through hardships. It's promoting the idea that you can overcome it. You're not always doomed to be that victim. You can overcome things and you can get better. You know, you don't always have to be. It's like people who are just so anti-recovery. There's like a heavy thing of people like not wanting to take their medication or anything, like meds and everything. It's just so anti-recovery and wallowing and in sadness, and it's just a really nice positive message. Like, no, it can get better. It really can. It's just it has to take effort, you know?
I've noticed that people are not necessarily like, oh yes, they're anti-recovery, but they're also like anti-negative or anti-positive thinking. Like people will just be like, oh, like you should, if you want to feel better, you should like go outside, talk to your friends, blah blah. And someone will be like, oh, that's fucking easy for you to say. You don't have blah blah. It's like, chill out. They're trying to help you be better. Like, or they're saying like this works for me. Like people just are so committed to being negative, especially online.
Exactly, and that's what. I mean, I don't think that was directly what Matt and Trey were like trying to address, but it really can be applied to these type of situations, everything. I just think it was such a good finale episode, and it's been so long since there's been a really good finale episode.
I was very happy with it. I was very happy with this season overall. I'm glad we did this podcast because I liked the season a lot, and I was happy to talk about it.
Oh, me too. And, you know, we're probably... we could have added the fractured butthole to this conversation, to this podcast, but I feel like we were going. I think we have planned. We'll see when it happens. A progression of like, I think we might do a stick of truth and a fractured butthole episode itself. My sister might join us for that one as well, because you know. Fractured Butthole was recently released. People have been able to play it, and my sister's completed the game like twice, I think. Damn. So
I haven't even played it yet.
So, you know, thank you guys for watching and listening because, you know, it's been quite the hiatus.
Yeah.
But, you know, it's not because we don't love doing it. We absolutely love doing these podcasts. We were really excited to do them again, you know. And we thank for, like, it was really sweet. We've had a few comments of people asking for this and asking requests, and people, like, we really love hearing that feedback. It's kind of a small demographic right now, small audience, but it means a lot when people listen and we get your comments. It just kind of warms our heart and makes us want to keep doing them, you know? Yeah.
So let us know what you think of season 21, or what you think about what we think about season 21.
I'm pretty sure we'll get some commentary, you know, down in the comments. We always enjoy reading them. Give us some suggestions for episodes. Ask us questions. You know, we love getting those questions too.
Yeah.
Even if they're personal. You know, we've answered a few personal ones on here before. Mm-hmm. So thank you guys again, and hopefully we can churn out another sort of episode or give you guys updates.
Yes.
You know, because we really do love doing this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was nice to be back. Thanks, guys. Bye.
We'll see you in another 4 months.
Yeah. Bye, guys.
Hopefully it won't be that long, but thanks. Bye.